Rhodes was found shot at the Queen of Hearts pub on East Livingston Avenue, along with two other women after a fight broke out. A 17-year-old girl was shot and listed in critical condition, while a 42-year-old woman is expected to survive.
It was supposed to be just another night out. Music echoing through the Queen of Hearts pub, laughter in the air, and people dancing away the worries of life. Among the crowd were two sisters, bonded by blood and an unshakable love. 30-year-old Shamira Rhodes and her 17-year-old baby sister, Katera "BB" Griffin, were inseparable. They didn't just share DNA. They shared secrets, dreams, and joy. That early September morning, no one could have imagined that the light in their eyes would be extinguished in an instant. The sisters were at an after-hours party in Columbus, Ohio, just enjoying life. It was 4:30 a.m. on September 25, 2022, a time when most of the city was asleep. But inside that venue, life pulsed in a different rhythm. Shamira and Katera were not troublemakers. They were daughters, sisters, a mother, and an aunt. Regular people simply trying to find happiness in a moment of celebration. Then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. Gunfire shattered the calm, slicing through the music, the joy, and the future these women were building. Shamira was hit, fatally. Her younger sister, BB, was critically wounded. Witnesses screamed, people fled, chaos reigned. And there, on that cold club floor, two lives began slipping away. One immediately, the other over the agonizing course of 3 weeks in the hospital. Katera, despite her youth, fought hard. Her body bore the violence that no 17-year-old should ever have to endure. Her family prayed, pleaded, and waited for a miracle. But on October 15th, she too passed. Her life cut short just as it was beginning to unfold. Her mother lost 2 daughters in less than a month, a pain that words can barely hold. It wasn't just a shooting. It was a heartbreak, a legacy stolen, a story that turned into a nightmare. This wasn't about gang violence. This wasn't about criminal lifestyles. This was about 2 black women, one a mother of 3, the other still in high school, who didn't make it home from what should have been a regular night out. Their names deserve to be said. Shamira Rhodes, Katera Griffin. Their stories deserve to be told, not just as headlines but as human beings. As this case unfolded in court, and as the community cried out in grief and disbelief, one question lingered. How did we get here? How do we live in a world where such senseless violence takes not just 1 life, but 2, in an instant? And what does justice look like for the families left behind, especially when nothing can bring them back? In this video, we take you through the heartbreaking events of that night, the legal pursuit of justice, and the legacy these 2 sisters leave behind. This is more than a crime story. It's a tribute, call to remembrance, plea for peace. Because behind every tragedy like this, there are names, faces, and families, and they deserve to be remembered with love and truth. In the quiet early hours of Sunday, September 25, 2022, the Queen of Hearts pub in Columbus, Ohio, was still alive with music and chatter. It was one of those after-hours parties that stretch beyond midnight, a space where people came to unwind, laugh, and feel alive for just a little longer. Among the crowd were 2 familiar faces, Shamira Rhodes and her little sister Katera, BB Griffin. The 2 had arrived together, as they often did. Their bond was strong, not just as sisters but as best friends. What should have been a simple night of fun was about to take a devastating turn. Around 4:30 a.m., the mood suddenly shifted. A disagreement escalated between Shamira and another woman at the party, a moment that could have ended with words or distance. But instead it turned deadly. In a flash, a gun was drawn and shots rang out, cutting through the music and silencing everything around them. Panic erupted as partygoers scrambled for cover, some ducking, others fleeing out into the dark Columbus morning. When first responders arrived, the scene was grim. Shamira Rhodes was found unresponsive. Despite efforts, she was pronounced dead on the scene, a young mother of 3, gone in an instant. Nearby lay her younger sister, Katera, clinging to life. The bullet wounds had torn through her body with brutal force. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, her survival uncertain. In that single moment, a family was torn apart, and a community would never be the same. While Shamira's life ended that morning, Katera's fight was just beginning. She underwent multiple surgeries, was placed on life support, and surrounded by prayers from a devastated family. For 3 long weeks, her loved ones held on to hope, visited her bedside, and begged for a miracle. But on October 15, 2022, Katera took her last breath. The heartbreak deepened. 2 sisters, gone less than a month apart, victims of a senseless act of violence that no one saw coming. As the community began to mourn, investigators went to work. They gathered witness statements, reviewed surveillance footage, and pieced together what happened in those chaotic moments. The evidence would soon point to one woman, someone who had known Shamira. The suspect's identity quickly became clear, and so did the brutality of what had taken place. This wasn't a random shooting. This was deliberate, cold, and personal. By October 6, just days after Katera was admitted to the hospital, 30-year-old Amara Battle was arrested and charged in connection with the shooting. Prosecutors claimed that after the altercation with Shamira, Amara walked to her car, retrieved a weapon, returned to the venue, and opened fire, a calculated decision that ended 2 lives and shattered many more. Her arrest was a relief for some, but no comfort could replace what was lost. The pain of that night continues to ripple. What began as a typical Sunday morning gathering turned into a crime scene, a hospital vigil, and eventually 2 funerals. The incident timeline is more than just a sequence of events. It's the story of how a joyful moment turned fatal. It's a reminder of how quickly life can be stolen, and how deeply one act of violence can affect countless lives. For the Rhodes and Griffin family, time now moves forward without 2 of its brightest lights. Shamira Rhodes was more than just a name in a headline. She was a mother, a sister, a daughter, and above all a protector. At just 30 years old, she was raising 3 children and working hard to give them a better life. Her family says she had a laugh that could light up a room and a presence that made everyone around her feel safe and seen. She had big dreams for her kids and loved them fiercely. They were her whole world. Losing her wasn't just losing a sister or a daughter. It was losing the foundation of an entire family. To her baby sister Katera Bibi Griffin, Shamira was a best friend, a second mother, and her safe place. Katera looked up to her with admiration and love. She had just turned 17 and was still in high school, dreaming about her future. She loved doing hair, makeup, and keeping up with fashion trends. She had ambition and vision, not just for herself but for her family. People who knew her say she had a sweet spirit, a quiet confidence, and a strong will to succeed. She wanted to make something of herself, and she was on her way.
Back to that deadly bar shooting from over the weekend. 10 Investigates has learned the city's attorney's office now planning to take legal action against the bar and property owners.
And according to records, the bar had a court order to cut back on hours, hire security, and restrict who could come in. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Bennett Haberly with what else he's uncovered. Bennett?
Yolanda, the city attorney's office says even though the bar has changed ownership and its name, that venue is still subject to that court order from February that would have limited hours and require security in place. That's why they plan to ask a judge to hold the bar and the property owners in contempt. This weekend shooting at the Queen of Hearts pub up East Livingston claimed the life of 30-year-old Shamira Rhodes. Those who knew her described her as charismatic, a mother, a hairdresser, an entertainer. Her friends say they're struggling with the loss.
Her life was just cut down tragically, and it overwhelmed everyone who's involved in it. It is honestly something that we never expected to come in contact with. It is overwhelming, truly. Like, she has 3 children.
Tiara Walton described herself as Shamira's sister. While the 2 aren't blood related, she says she's helping raise one of Shamira's children and is now helping to plan her funeral. Walton says there was an altercation before this weekend's shooting. Columbus police would now like the public's help identifying these women who were in the bar early Sunday morning.
Where she was in that moment does not define who she was as a person or character or how this case should be looked at.
This is unacceptable, and anything that I can do, as I've told the family, as I've told other people, to push back against gun violence, I'm going to continue to do. This was just too much for me.
State Representative Latina Humphrey says she was friends with Shamira and has known her for 18 years. She says this weekend's shooting is a reminder of the current ease placed on gun restrictions and a lack of conflict resolution skills among people.
I don't care what the disagreement was, it didn't need to end in death.
Court records show the city attorney's office had taken legal action against the bar's previous owner, which compelled it to reduce its hours, hire security, and not allow anyone to enter under the age of 30. A clause in the document also states if there's a violation, the court may further close and board up the storefront. That holds true for the previous bar owner or its successor.
You can't just start shutting down all the bars because there is crime out there in the streets.
Attorney Jim Andrioff used to represent the bar's owner when it was called the Pelican Club. He says the city attorney's efforts to restrict or shut down certain bars after shootings won't quell future violence. Just send it elsewhere.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's never going to end.
But don't they bear some responsibility for what happens at their bar or their business?
There's no question that they bear responsibility for what happens at their bar. But if you're a business owner and you're trying to prevent things from happening by getting security detail or getting police, there's a big difference between getting Columbus Police as security versus a private security company that doesn't get the same training.
Shamira Rhodes' friends say everyone bears some responsibility.
We're not removing any blame. We're not saying that, that it's entirely their fault. But what we are saying is everyone needs to play the role that they need to play and to stop these things from happening.
And tonight we've been unable to reach the current bar owner despite phone calls and 2 emails sent today. We're also hoping to get a response from the city attorney's office and the Columbus Police about their efforts in working with some of these establishments and the enforcements there. We'll provide an update when we hear back. Yolanda?
Their bond as sisters was unbreakable. They did everything together. Birthdays, holidays, late-night talks, and shared struggles. The kind of love they had didn't need to be spoken. It was visible. In pictures, you could see it in the way they smiled beside each other, laughed with each other, leaned on one another. That night at the club, Shamira didn't just bring her sister out to have fun. She brought her because she always wanted to keep her close, to keep her protected. Even in her final moments, that protective love never faded. The pain of losing them both is something their mother says she will carry forever. She didn't just lose 2 daughters, she lost 2 parts of her heart. In one interview she said, "I cry every day. I'm so hurt. I still can't believe they're gone." It's hard for any parent to bury a child, but to, within weeks of each other. That kind of grief is unspeakable. She's now raising Shamira's children, trying to stay strong while carrying the weight of unimaginable loss. Friends of Katera also speak about her with tears and reverence. One described her as the kind of person who was always there when you needed her. She had dreams of opening her own beauty business, of building something lasting. Her passing wasn't just the loss of a teenager. It was the loss of potential, of possibility, of a life just beginning. Her peers still struggle with the reality that someone so full of life could be taken so violently. As for Shamira, she leaves behind 3 children who now have to grow up without their mother's hugs, her guidance, or her voice cheering them on. Those children will carry her memory with them, but they'll also carry the ache of absence. Her legacy lives on in them, in their smiles, their laughter, and the strength they'll need to face the future. And while no tribute can ever fully capture the depth of her love, her family vows to keep her name alive in everything they do. Together, Shamira and Katera's story is a reminder that behind every headline is a human life. 2 lives in this case, intertwined by sisterhood and snatched away far too soon. They were real people with real dreams and real love in their hearts. And while the world may have failed to protect them, their memories will live on through their loved ones. In stories, in photos, and in the voices of those who refuse to forget. In the days following the tragic shooting that claimed the lives of Shamira Rhodes and Katera Griffin, the city of Columbus was shaken. 2 sisters gone. Not from an accident, not from illness, but from a deliberate act of violence. As the shock turned to questions, Investigators began piecing together what happened in those final moments. Witness testimonies, surveillance footage, and forensic evidence pointed to one person, 30-year-old Amara Battle. Amara wasn't a stranger. She had once shared a friendship with Shamira. That closeness, according to the prosecution, had long since unraveled into something more complicated, more volatile. On that early morning at the Queen of Hearts pub, something triggered a confrontation. Words were exchanged, emotions escalated, and then, heartbreakingly, violence followed. Investigators say that Amara left the building after the argument, walked to her car, retrieved a firearm, and returned with a deadly purpose. The footage reportedly captured her walking up to Shamira and opening fire. Without hesitation, without warning. It was a cold and calculated decision, one that would end Shamira's life on the spot and leave Katera fighting for hers. Police arrested Amara on October 6, 2022, just weeks after the shooting. By then, Katera was still in the hospital, her fate uncertain. The charges were immediate and serious. 4 counts of murder, felonious assault, and weapons under disability, among others. When Katera passed away on October 15, the stakes of the case changed completely. What began as one life lost had become 2. The weight of grief in that courtroom was palpable when the case went to trial. Families from both sides showed up, sitting just feet apart. One mourning daughters, the other witnessing a loved one stand accused of a crime that changed lives forever. Throughout the proceedings, the prosecution presented a clear narrative of intent and action. They argued that Amara had not acted in the heat of passion, but with calculated aggression. The defense, while offering its own version of events, could not change the facts captured on video, nor erase the pain left behind. After a thorough trial, on April 25, 2025, a Franklin County jury found Amara Battle guilty on all major charges. For the Rhodes and Griffin family, the verdict brought a complicated wave of emotions. On one hand, it was a moment of validation, that justice had been pursued and served. On the other, no courtroom outcome could undo what was done. No sentence could bring Shamira and Katera back. Their mother, in her quiet strength, said it best. At least now we can begin to heal, but we'll never stop missing them. As Amara awaits sentencing, the case remains a stark reminder of how quickly lives can unravel, how unresolved anger can turn fatal, and how one decision can destroy multiple families in a single moment. The courtroom offered closure, yes, but it also offered a reflection on choices, accountability, and the heavy, heavy cost of violence. The loss of Shamira Rhodes and Katera Griffin didn't just shatter a single family, it rippled through an entire community. In the weeks and months that followed their deaths, their absence was felt everywhere. In classrooms, in living rooms, at Sunday dinners, and on quiet mornings that used to begin with phone calls or laughter. These weren't just names on the news. They were neighbors, classmates, co-workers, and friends. And their community grieved as if it had lost its own daughters, because in many ways it had. Katera's high school classmates held vigils and shared memories of a girl with dreams bigger than her small city. Friends posted tributes online, remembering her soft smile and sharp style. How she always wanted to start her own beauty brand and help people feel beautiful. She was a light, one friend said, holding back tears. She was the type of person you wanted to protect. She didn't deserve this. The grief was raw, especially among other young women who saw their own reflection in her story. For Shamira's family, the sorrow was heavier than words could bear. A mother of 3 now gone. Her children now growing up without the warmth of her hugs, the comfort of her voice, the everyday joy of her presence. Her mother, now raising those grandchildren, often speaks publicly about the deep pain of losing both her daughters. "They were my best friends," she said in an emotional interview. "Now I'm left with silence. I cry every day, but I have to stay strong for the kids." Columbus, like so many cities across the country, has seen far too many lives lost to gun violence. But this case stood out. 2 sisters killed at the same time, in a moment that should have been prevented. The tragedy sparked conversations in churches, schools, and local organizations about safety, mental health, conflict resolution, and the need for more positive spaces for young people. The community wasn't just mourning. It was also reflecting. Prosecutor Shayla Favor publicly acknowledged the emotional toll this case had taken on everyone involved. In a heartfelt statement, she said, "My heart goes out to the Rhodes and Griffin family. The pain they've endured is unimaginable. Justice has been served in court, but the true healing will take time, and it must be supported by all of us." Her words reminded the city that justice isn't just about a verdict. It's about compassion, prevention, and care. Local anti-violence groups used this moment to renew their efforts. Outreach programs hosted forums in schools, held self-defense classes, and organized events for at-risk youth. Volunteers created a mural in honor of Shamira and Katera, turning grief into a message. Never forget. Never again. Their faces now look out over East Livingston Avenue, not just as a memorial, but as a symbol of what's at stake when violence goes unchecked. Even now, long after the trial and headlines, the story of Shamira and Katera still lingers. It lingers in their mother's strength, in their children's laughter, in the community's push for change. They may be gone, but their names continue to inspire reflection, love, and a deep desire for peace. Because their story isn't just about loss, it's about legacy. And that legacy lives on in every life they touched. Telling the story of Shamira Rhodes and Katera Griffin isn't just about recounting what happened. It's about honoring who they were and helping viewers feel that connection in their hearts. Your video should feel like a tribute, a memorial, and a call to reflection. So the storytelling must be human first, grounded in emotion, and respectful to their memory. Start with gentle cinematic visuals of the city of Columbus at dawn. Empty streets, traffic lights glowing, the early calm before the world wakes up. Layer this with soft piano or ambient music as your narration begins. This quiet opening can mirror the contrast between a normal morning and the storm that was about to hit. Let the audience settle into the moment before delivering the emotional weight of what unfolded. Introduce Shamira and Katera through real-life photos, if available and publicly shared. Use subtle pan and zoom effects to create motion, as if the images are alive. When describing their personalities, Shamira's protective nature, Katera's bright spirit, show visuals that reflect those traits. Candid smiles, sisterly hugs, moments of joy. This helps the viewer see them as people first, not just victims. When recounting the night of the shooting, shift the tone visually and sonically. Dim the lighting. Bring in darker, more somber filters. Use reenactment-style imagery if footage is unavailable. Slow-motion club lights, a door opening, a crowd dispersing. Don't show actual violence or gore. Instead, suggest it with sudden sound cuts, flashes of light, or audio like gasps, running footsteps, or sirens fading in. For the hospital scenes and aftermath, consider showing blurred images of hospital hallways, empty waiting rooms, or candles flickering at a bedside. These visuals can help convey the agony of those 3 weeks when Katera fought for her life. Pair this with soft narration. Maybe even use the voice of a family member, if consent is given, to describe those days. Authentic voices make stories unforgettable. As you move into the legal section, blend visuals of the courthouse, the suspect's mugshot, if ethically appropriate, and graphics showing a timeline of key events. Date of the shooting, arrest, trial, and verdict. Use visual overlays for quotes from the prosecutor or family statements. Simple white text over black backgrounds can have immense impact when used with care and silence. For the community impact, this is a good time to show footage of vigils, flowers left on sidewalks, mural painting, or people holding signs that read "Justice for Shamira and Katera." These images show the audience that these sisters mattered, that people showed up, cried, lit candles, prayed. If available, use actual clips of friends and family speaking. Even short audio clips can carry deep emotional weight. One of the most powerful tools you can use is silence. Let some moments breathe. After showing Shamira's smiling face or a child hugging her photo, pause. Let viewers feel the ache. Don't rush from one event to the next. Guide them gently, like a storyteller honoring sacred ground. Music should be chosen intentionally. Avoid overly dramatic scores. Instead, go for soft, emotional instrumentals, piano, cello, ambient tones. In your transitions, avoid loud whooshes or flashy edits. Fade-ins and fade-outs work best here. Consider creating short chapter titles to guide viewers through each segment, such as The Night It All Changed, The Fight for Justice, or A Mother's Pain. These help the audience stay emotionally connected without feeling overwhelmed or confused. Finally, end your video with hope and tribute. Show clips or images of Shamira's children smiling, or community members placing flowers near their mural. Use a voiceover that gently calls for reflection. Let their story be a reminder that every life is precious, every choice matters, and love must always lead the way. Fade out with a quote from their mother or a loved one. Something authentic, something lasting. This is not just a story about crime. It's a story about people, about love, about loss, and the ongoing journey toward healing. Let your visuals carry that message gently, with warmth and grace. And your audience will not only watch, but remember. The story of Shamira Rhodes and Katera Griffin is one that should have never been told this way. As a tragedy, as a cautionary tale, as a memorial. These were two young women with full lives ahead of them. Shamira, a devoted mother raising 3 beautiful children. Katera, a teenager just beginning to chase her dreams. They were sisters, best friends, 2 lights moving through life together. And in one moment of senseless violence, those lights were extinguished. Their absence has left a hole, not just in their family, but in their community and in the hearts of everyone who hears their story. Their mother now wakes up to silence where laughter once lived. Their children now grow up with memories and photos instead of warm embraces. And all of us are left to wonder how such beauty, joy, and innocence could be taken so cruelly, and what we must do to ensure it doesn't happen again. But while this story ends in heartbreak, it does not have to end in hopelessness. Justice was pursued. The person responsible has been held accountable. And the strength of the Rhodes and Griffin family has shown us that even in deep sorrow, there is power. The power to speak out, to stand up, and to keep their names alive. That is how we honor them. That is how we ensure they are never forgotten. As viewers, we must carry their story forward. Not just in our thoughts, but in our actions. Let this video be more than just something you watched. Let it be something you felt. Something that moved you. Something that made you pause and think about how fragile life is, and how precious every moment with those we love truly is. If you're a parent, hug your children a little tighter tonight. If you're a sibling, check on each other more often. If you see conflict brewing in your community, do what you can to de-escalate it. Sometimes, one conversation, one act of kindness, one calm voice can change the direction of someone's entire day, or even save a life. We all play a part in building a safer, more compassionate world. And if you're someone who has lost someone to violence, know that you're not alone. There are people walking through that same pain, who understand the ache of birthdays missed, calls that never come, and futures stolen. Shamira and Katera's story is now part of a much bigger one. The story of resilience in the face of devastation, and of love that refuses to die even when lives are lost. We invite you to remember their names. Shamira Rhodes, Katera Griffin. Say them out loud. Share their story. Use your platform, whether it's a conversation, a classroom, a post, or a prayer, to amplify their legacy. Because the more we speak their names, the more we ensure that they did not die in vain. If this story touched you, please consider supporting organizations working to end gun violence, to support grieving families, and to build better resources for youth. Small actions, volunteering, donating, mentoring, or simply listening, can lead to real change. You don't have to do everything, but you can do something. And lastly, if you're watching this and you're in pain, if you're angry, lost, or carrying your own story of heartbreak, know that healing is possible. It's slow, it's messy, but it's real. And stories like Shamira and Katera's remind us that even in the darkest hours, love still remains. It is the one thing no bullet can destroy. Thank you for taking the time to witness their story. Thank you for choosing not to look away. As we close, we ask just one thing. Carry their names forward. Speak up for peace. Choose compassion. And may the memory of Shamira Rhodes and Katera Griffin forever remind us that every life matters. Deeply, fully, and without exception.